Gender-based violence tramples human dignity, it hurts and hinders human development. This act violates human rights. It's enacted under many different manifestations, from its most widespread form, intimate partner violence, to act as violence carried out in online spaces. What is violence? Violence is defined by the World Health Organization as the intentional use of physical force or power, threatened or actual, against oneself, another person, or against a group or community, which either results in or has a high likelihood or results in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation.
Physical violence. Any act which causes physical harm as a result of unlawful physical force. Physical violence can take the form of, among others, serious and minor assault, deprivation of liberty, and manslaughter. Physical abuse is any intentional act causing injury or trauma to another person or animal by way of bodily contact. In most cases, children are the victims of physical abuse, but adults can also be victims. As in the case of domestic violence or workplace aggregation, physical violence can cause stress, trauma, and depression. Physical violence means that a person is exerting control over another person through the use of physical force. Example of physical violence including hitting, punching, slapping, kicking, restraining, choking, and brandishing or using any weapon.
Sexual violence or harassment is any sexual act performed on an individual without their consent. Sexual violence can take the form of rape or sexual assault. The most likely victim of sexual violence or harassment is female. Example of sexual violence or harassment is like flirting, gesturing, or making sexual remarks about someone's body, clothing, or appearance, like asking questions about someone's sex life, telling sexually offensive jokes, making sexual comments or jokes about someone's sexual orientation or gender reassignment.
Psychological violence. Any act which causes psychological harm to an individual. Psychological violence can take the form of, for example, coercion, defamation, verbal insult, or harassment.
Economic violence. Any act or behavior which economic harm to an individual. Economic violence can take form of, for example, property damage, restricting access to financial resources, education or the labor market, or not complying with economic responsibility such as alimony. Economic violence also involves making or attempting to make person financially independent by maintaining total control of financial resources, withholding access to money, and forbidden attendance at a school or employment. Anything that can abuse the economic property of someone is part of the economic violence.